Today, we're digging into the science of what people actually use versus what they just ignore. And this idea, it affects everything, from the books on library shelves to the massive databases companies use, and even the algorithms that feed you content online. It's all about figuring out what's valuable and what's just collecting digital dust. So let's get into it. Okay, so picture a huge university library. You know the kind. Towering shelves, millions of books. It feels like this giant storehouse of human knowledge. But here's a question for you. Of all those books, all carefully chosen and cataloged, what percentage do you think are never, ever even opened by a single person? Get ready for this. It's almost half, 50%. Just let that sink in. For every book that gets checked out, another one just sits there, completely untouched, for years and years. That's a mind-boggling amount of information that isn't actually informing anyone. And look, this isn't just some wild guess. It comes straight from the research. A study by Roy and Paul is what uncovered this incredible statistic. It's just a really powerful reminder that just because information is available, that doesn't mean it's actually being used. And this really gets to the heart of a library's biggest and maybe dustiest secret. Because this isn't just about knowledge going to waste. No, that unused information, it has a very, very real cost. I mean, think about it. Every single year, institutions like these are spending huge amounts of money. We're talking millions on books, journal subscriptions, and access to databases. But it forces you to ask a really important question. Are they spending that money on the right resources, the stuff people actually need, or are they just guessing? So what's the solution here? How do you stop wasting money and start making sure that the right information is getting into the right hands? Well, the answer is to get smart about it, to systematically study how information is actually used. And that leads us to this key idea, the information use study. It's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a formal, organized way of figuring out what people are reading, what they're skipping over, and maybe most importantly, why. And you know, the payoff for doing these studies is incredibly practical. They help organizations buy what people are actually asking for. They can clear out the unused stuff to make room for what's popular. They can even figure out why a certain database is confusing or hard to use. And of course, the big one, they stop wasting money. It's all about being more efficient and serving people better. But here's the thing. Studying information use isn't some one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Researchers can actually tailor their investigations to answer all sorts of different questions. And you can see just how many different ways there are to approach this. You could focus on a specific group of users, like, say, first-year college students. Or you could study a whole profession, like engineers. You can also zoom in on a subject, or compare how people use physical books versus digital ones. Each one gives you a totally different piece of the puzzle. So, to make this a little more real, let's just compare two of the big ones. On one side, you've got your non-electronic studies. These are all about physical stuff, which books are flying off the shelves, right? And on the other side, you've got the electronic-based studies. These are tracking clicks, downloads, and logins to see what's hot in the digital world. Okay, so we know why they do these studies, but how do they do them? What does it actually look like on the ground? Let's pop open the Investigator's Toolkit and take a look. You're going to love this one for how simple and clever it is. It's called the dot on the spine method. Seriously, every time a book is checked out, the librarian just puts a little colored dot on the spine. After a few years, you just walk down the aisle and look. A bunch of dots? Popular book. No dots? Well, that book hasn't been borrowed once. It's so low-tech, so visual, and it just works. Now, for a more academic approach, you've got something called citation analysis. This is some real detective work. Basically, researchers will collect a whole bunch of articles from a specific group, like all the papers published by a university science faculty. Then they go through every single bibliography and tally up which journals and books are cited the most often. The end result is this amazing ranked list of the most essential resources in that field. Of course, sometimes the easiest way to figure out what people are using is, well, to just ask them. And that's where a good old-fashioned questionnaire comes in handy. Researchers can create a list of specific resources and just ask people to rate how often they use each one, on a scale from daily all the way down to not used. It's a super direct way to get data straight from the people who matter. So you've put dots on spines, you've analyzed thousands of citations, you've collected all the questionnaires. Now what? Well, this is the exciting part. This is where all that data gets turned into actual decisions.
And often, the result of all that work is a super clean, simple, ranked list. Just like this one. It shows you with zero guesswork which journals are absolutely essential to your users. And it also shows you which ones, like number 22, way down at the bottom, pretty much nobody is reading. The data tells the whole story. And this is where it all pays off. Armed with a list like that, a librarian can make choices with total confidence. They can absolutely justify spending big bucks on those top-ranked journals because they have the proof. And they can just as confidently say, you know what? We're going to cancel the ones at the bottom, freeing up that money for things people will actually use. So in the end, these studies are all about cutting through the noise to find what's truly valuable. They help our institutions get smarter and more in tune with what we need. And it kind of makes you think, right? Think about all the articles you have bookmarked, the newsletters in your inbox, the books piled up on your nightstand. How much of the information that you gather every day is truly useful, and how much of it is just noise?